Today, we're looking at a green ink from Monteverde Olivine. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. Down below there's timestamps so that if there's only certain things you're interested, you can skip around to it. But if you've got the time, I would appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram. And if you like fountain pen ink reviews and are new here, I would invite you to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Noodler's Nib Creeper. I wrote with it for a day and used it to take the notes for this video. In order to have some standardization in my writing samples, I always use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, which means I got it in a vial that looks something like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X 450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X 750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. Whoa, throw it off camera. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is a bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and holy moly, look at that gorgeous camouflage shading. It is absolutely amazing. The way dog looks, where it's dark to lighter to dark to lighter, and a very light in the G, over starts lighter, gets dark. This is some camouflage shading. I can't even get into all of what the shading is. I'm going to just call them camouflage as we move forward with this one. 13 seconds to dry. Medium is about the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and camouflage shading the whole way through. This is gorgeous. It's why I like green inks, and I cannot lie. 20 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both, do show plenty of color variation, and we do get plenty. Tomoe River. No bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shading. 22 seconds to dry. It's kind of why I'm really not a fan of this Tomoe River paper. It eats up some of the shading a bunch of times, letting the ink completely level off before drying. And with 22 seconds, it really does get to level and lose a lot of it. Medium is a little darker than the extra fine, not quite as dark as the stub. It has no feather spread, halo sheen. It only shows a little bit of that great shading that it can do, like in Fox, it goes lighter to dark. Brown starts lighter, dark. Dry starts lighter, dark. So it can be there. This paper's inhibiting its supernatural abilities. 35 seconds to dry. This scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we're really not getting it in the writing. Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine has a lighter tone than the stub. No feather spread, halo sheen. It is starting to show off some of the shading that it can do. Not quite the camouflage level yet, but brown starts darker and gets lighter. Over starts lighter and gets darker. The is a very dark word. The dark word. Fox starts very dark, gets lighter into the O, gets very dark into the X again. 15 seconds to dry. Medium is about the same tone as the extra fine, but showing off what this ink can do. It's got no feather spread, halo sheen. The shading is a whole lot better. Look at Fox. Light, dark in this swoop of the F, lighter at the top, dark down through, gets lighter up over into the O, gets very dark. Nice. Dog starts lighter, works its way darker. It's still, the Clairfontaine is been what's really made this stand out. 23 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both aren't showing nearly the color variation that we do get in the writing sample. I agree with Vita that there's a lot to be learned by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see as it moves up, for one, it's fleeing from the water. It's running. We see this yellowy tone. and then a dark brown with a very dark green. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And we really don't see a difference between these two chromatographies, other than the fact that one I put a D on to mark that it dried. So I don't have a lot of resistance expectations here. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I'm surprised how well it did based on the chromatography. The lowercase h does have a little bit of feathering going on, but I don't lose what I wrote, so I could feel safe using this as a note taker if I had to go back and highlight. Now looking at the water, you have to look at the bottom left region and you start to see some of the white of the paper just creeping through. Now this water was only sitting on the top of this ink for 30 seconds and it's really starting to make its way through, which makes me feel that water is likely all that you need. Pen flush, if you needed more, does completely start breaking this down. You see a lot of the white of the paper starting to show its way through, and again, that's only 30 seconds, so there's no need to go beyond pen flush. The 1/3 bleach solution does completely remove it from the paper, but you don't need it. I test viscosity or flow with a tilt test that I'll link the video on how I do that. Now, for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Monteverde's Olivine has a viscosity of 2.68, making this a normal ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average all of those. Now, for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Monteverde's Olivine has an average dry time of 21 seconds. It's on the high side of normal, the high edge of normal, but it's still normal. Instead of finding inks that look like Monteverde's Olivine, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. And sometimes I like putting reds with greens. I chose Atramentis Poppy Red. The second writing sample is done on Apica CD, black and red, and Franklin Christoph paper. Here we're looking at the Apica CD notebook. Now we get no bleeding, minor ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and it has some very nice shading starting to show up. Monteverde starts very dark, but at the R it starts getting a little bit lighter, and at the end of the D, much darker. Pause for joke in head. The extra fine is lighter than the 1.1 with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and some very nice shading. The quick starts dark, gets lighter, gets darker at the IC, lighter out of the C, and very dark into the K. Brown starts dark and gets light. Beautiful stuff. 9 seconds to dry. Medium, same tone as the extra fine with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and the camouflage is back. That's why I like Apica notebooks. Look at what's going on with Quick. The amount of transition back and forth between a light green and a dark green, and a light green and a dark green, and a light green and a dark green, and I am saying that a lot. This is gorgeous here. 14 seconds to dry. It could have taken 14 minutes to dry, and with a look like that, I would take it. It is amazing. It would be a pain as a note taker turning a page, but it's nice. Looking at the scrubby of the extra fine, it doesn't show nearly the color variation that we actually do get in the writing. We get more up there than we do here. The medium scrubby does show some color variation far left to far right. It's better in the writing. How about black and red notebooks? No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather, spread, halo, sheen. It does offer some very nice shading here. Look at Quick where it's got the dark spots in there. It gets a little lighter, very dark at the K. The starts light, gets dark. Over starts light, gets dark. The over here is a very dark word. 6 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine. Medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and it shows shading better than the extra fine did. Look at what's going on with Quick, where it's wanting to do the camouflage thing. It's starting lighter, getting darker. gets lighter between the U and the I, and then gets very dark again. It's fighting to get through. It's just not making it. Over starts lighter, gets darker. The starts lighter, gets darker. 10 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both don't show very much color variation at all, although the medium does much better than the extra fine did. Last up is Franklin Christoph. No bleeding, some minor ghosting, very minor. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. 6 seconds to dry. This is a more absorbent paper. The medium is darker than the extra fine, same tone as the stub. No feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 7 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we got none, and that is all that I have for the writing sample. So what do I think of Monteverde Olivine? This is a perfect green. It is a great tone that has that amazing camouflage shading to look at. That is where you can absolutely fall in love with an ink, and this ink has it, without a doubt. This is one of the best greens that I've come across. It is got everything that I like in a green. Yes, please. So what nib and pen give the best writing experience with this ink? While you can use it with any pen and any flow, I did find it most enjoyable for me from a wet broad. I put out a new ink review every single day, so that if you're not already subscribed, I'm going to remind you, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks for watching.